Welcome, my fellow horror enthusiasts, to a special Halloween edition of the channel. Tonight, we're not just telling stories, we're peering into the abyss of reality itself. We're about to unravel 5 terrifying tales of parallel universes, each more unsettling than the last. Imagine a world subtly but horrifyingly different from our own, where the familiar twists into the terrifying, where the people you love wear the same faces but harbor unimaginable darkness. This Halloween, we invite you to confront the unknown, to embrace the chills that run down your spine. Turn off the lights, grab your courage, and prepare to be completely immersed in these 5 spooky parallel universe encounters. Let the darkness seep in and remind yourself, sometimes the most terrifying monsters are reflections of ourselves in another dimension. Are you ready to face the unknown? Because once you step through this portal, there's no turning back. Our first story plunges us into the unsettling experience of Sarah, a young woman who finds herself in a chillingly familiar yet horrifyingly different reality. It all began with a strange dizziness, a disorientation that washed over her as she walked home from work one evening. The street lights seemed to flicker, casting an unsettling glow on the faces passing by. Faces she knew, faces of friends and neighbors, yet twisted into grotesque parodies of themselves. Their smiles were too wide, their eyes devoid of warmth, replaced with a chilling emptiness. At first, Sarah dismissed it as fatigue, the stress of her day playing tricks on her mind. But as she reached her apartment building and saw the building manager, a kind old man she'd known for years, his usual friendly greeting replaced with a menacing sneer, she knew something was deeply, terribly wrong. The unease gnawed at her, a growing sense of dread that sent shivers down her spine. This wasn't her world. Not anymore. This was a twisted reflection, a nightmare disguised as reality, and she was trapped within its clutches. Desperate for solace, Sarah rushed to her best friend Emily's apartment. But the terror only intensified when she saw Emily, her usual bubbly personality replaced with a cold, calculating stare. The warmth in her eyes was gone, replaced with a chilling emptiness that sent shivers down Sarah's spine. This doppelganger, this imposter wearing Emily's face, spoke in a chillingly detached tone, her words laced with a subtle malice that made Sarah's blood run cold. This wasn't the Emily she knew, the friend she confided in, the one who shared her laughter and her tears. This was something else, something sinister. Panicked, Sarah fled, the image of her friend's twisted face etched into her mind. The familiar streets now seemed menacing, every corner hiding a distorted reflection of someone she once knew. The city, once a source of comfort and familiarity, had transformed into a labyrinth of fear. Sarah found herself running, her heart pounding in her chest, the echo of her own footsteps fueling her terror. She didn't know where she was going, only that she had to escape this nightmare, this warped reality that had stolen the faces of everyone she loved. Days turned into a blur of fear and paranoia. Sarah wandered the city, a ghost haunting the edges of this unsettling reality, desperately searching for a way out, a way back to her own world. Food tasted like ash in her mouth. Sleep offered no escape from the nightmare she was living. She saw glimpses of her own face in store windows, but her reflection was gone, replaced by the same chilling emptiness she saw in everyone else. It was as if this world was slowly consuming her, stripping away her identity and replacing it with a hollow shell. One evening, while hiding in a deserted alleyway, Sarah stumbled upon a flicker of light, a distortion in the fabric of this nightmarish reality. It pulsed and shimmered, a beacon of hope in the suffocating darkness. Could this be her way out? A portal back to her own world? Fear warred with desperation. Was this another trick, another layer of the nightmare? Or was it her only chance? With a deep breath, Sarah stepped towards the light, praying that on the other side she wouldn't be met with another horrifying reflection of herself. Our next story takes us from the unsettling familiarity of doppelgangers to the sterile, unnerving halls of a hospital that exists outside the realm of the known. This is the story of Mark, a man who woke with a gasp, his head throbbing, the pungent smell of antiseptic stinging his nostrils. He found himself lying in a stark white hospital bed, his vision blurry, a dull ache throbbing behind his eyes. He tried to recall what had happened, how he ended up here, but his mind was a jumble of disjointed images and unsettling dreams. As his vision cleared, he realized something was terribly wrong. The room was cold, clinical, but there was an underlying wrongness, a subtle distortion that sent chills down his spine. The equipment surrounding him hummed with an alien energy, casting eerie shadows that danced across the walls. Then he saw them, the nurses. Their movements were fluid, almost too precise. Their smiles strained, their eyes reflecting an unsettling emptiness. They spoke in hushed, clipped tones, their words devoid of warmth or empathy. It was as if they were merely shells, their humanity replaced by something cold and calculating. Days bled into nights, each one indistinguishable from the last. The hospital staff, with their vacant stares and mechanical movements, continued their unsettling routines, their presence more unnerving than comforting. Mark felt a constant, gnawing sense of dread, a feeling that he was trapped in a macabre play. He tried to piece together what had happened, but his memories remained fragmented, elusive. He had no recollection of an accident, no memory of being admitted. It was as if he had simply woken up in this unsettling reality, a prisoner in this cold, sterile prison. The other patients offered no solace. They moved like phantoms, their faces pale and drawn, their eyes filled with a vacant resignation. Whispers followed him like shadows, fragments of conversations in languages he didn't understand, pronouncements of treatments that sounded more like torturous experiments. Mark knew he had to escape, to get away from this place before whatever force controlled this hospital claimed him as well. This wasn't a place of healing, but a holding cell for something far more sinister. He could feel it in the cold, sterile air, hear it in the hushed whispers, see it in the vacant eyes of the staff. One night, fueled by a mix of terror and desperation, Mark made his move. He slipped out of his room, his heart pounding in his chest, the silence of the hallway amplifying every creak and groan of the old building. The air hung heavy with the scent of antiseptic and something else, something metallic and alien. He moved through the labyrinthine corridors, each turn leading to another identical hallway, the same flickering fluorescent lights casting long, distorted shadows that danced and twisted along the walls. He felt like a rat trapped in a maze, the walls closing in, his hope dwindling with each step. Just when his resolve began to crumble, he saw it, a door at the end of the hallway, bathed in a warm, inviting light. Could this be his escape, a way out of this nightmare? He broke into a run, his lungs burning, his legs heavy with exhaustion, the promise of freedom spurring him on. But as he drew closer, he realized the door wasn't getting any closer. The hallway stretched on, seemingly infinite, the door remaining tantalizingly out of reach, and from behind him he heard a noise that sent chills down his spine, the soft, rhythmic thud of footsteps slowly gaining on him. Picture this, a young family full of hope and excitement, finally moving into their dream home. The kids are running around exploring their new bedrooms, while the parents unpack boxes, picturing years of happiness within these walls. But something sinister lurks beneath the surface of this idyllic scene. There's an energy in this house, a palpable tension that hangs in the air like a thick fog. It's subtle at first, easily dismissed as the stress of moving or the unfamiliarity of a new place. Little do they know, a darkness has already begun to seep into their lives, twisting their dream into a nightmare. The family, oblivious to the horrors that await, continues with their unpacking, their laughter echoing through the empty halls. But each slammed door, each creaking floorboard, seems to amplify the unsettling feeling that something is terribly wrong. They've stepped into a trap, a gateway to a realm beyond human comprehension, and there's no turning back. Days turn into nights, and the strange occurrences begin. A flickering light, dismissed as faulty wiring. The sound of whispers coming from the walls, blamed on an overactive imagination. But as these incidents increase in frequency and intensity, the family can no longer ignore the chilling reality that their home is not what it seems. The children's toys begin to move on their own, their laughter replaced with an eerie silence. Shadows dance in the corners of their vision, vanishing when approached. The parents, their initial skepticism crumbling, are now gripped by a growing sense of dread. They tell themselves it's just an old house settling, but deep down a primal fear takes root. One night the mother wakes to a blood-curdling scream. Rushing to her son's room, she finds him trembling in his bed, his eyes wide with terror. He points to the closet door, whispering that something tried to pull him through. She hugs him close, trying to soothe his fears, but her own heart pounds against her ribs. She can't shake the feeling that something sinister is lurking just beyond the veil of reality, watching, waiting. The family gathers in the living room, their faces illuminated by the flickering light of the television. They try to distract themselves, to maintain a semblance of normalcy, but the fear hangs heavy in the air. The father, desperate for answers, begins researching the history of the house, uncovering a dark secret that sends chills down his spine. The house, he learns, was built on the site of an ancient portal, a gateway to a terrifying parallel universe. Armed with this terrifying knowledge, the family desperately searches for a way to close the portal, to seal off the evil that has invaded their home. They consult ancient texts, seeking rituals and incantations, clinging to any hope of escaping their living nightmare. But their efforts are in vain. The portal, it seems, has other plans. One night, as the family huddles together for comfort, the house begins to tremble violently. Books fly off shelves, furniture slides across the floor, and the air grows heavy with a malevolent energy. The portal, awakened by their fear, tears through the fabric of reality, a swirling vortex of darkness consuming everything in its path. The family, their faces contorted in terror, reach for each other, their screams drowned out by the deafening roar of the portal. The children cry out for their parents, their tiny hands outstretched as the darkness engulfs them. The parents, their hearts breaking, can only watch in horror as their children are ripped from their grasp, swallowed whole by the abyss. And then silence. The portal, its hunger satiated for now, shrinks and disappears, leaving behind a chilling emptiness. The house stands eerily still, a silent monument to the family that once sought refuge within its walls. But the portal is not gone, not truly. It lies dormant, waiting for its next victims, a constant reminder that some doors are best left unopened. Imagine, if you will, a group of friends out in the middle of nowhere celebrating a birthday. They've been hiking all day, the sun is setting, and they're about to start a campfire. They think they're alone, but they're so very wrong. As they're gathering wood, one of the friends, let's call her Sarah, notices something strange through the trees, a glimmer almost like a heat wave shimmering in the distance. Curious, she calls out to her friends, asking if they see it too. At first, they think she's messing around, but as they get closer, they too see the strange anomaly. It's almost hypnotic, drawing them closer with an unnatural pull. They hesitate for a moment, a sense of unease settling over them. But curiosity, as it often does, gets the better of them. They cautiously approach the shimmering air, and as they do, the air grows cold, sending shivers down their spines. One by one, they step through the shimmering boundary, and instantly the world around them changes. The familiar sounds of the forest are gone, replaced by an eerie silence. The trees, once familiar, now seem twisted and menacing, their branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. Panic starts to set in as they realize they're not in Kansas anymore. This is not their world, not anymore. The air is thick with a strange energy. A feeling of being watched, of being hunted. They desperately try to retrace their steps to find that shimmering portal again, but it's gone, vanished into thin air. As darkness descends, the true horror of their situation begins to dawn on them. They huddle together for warmth, fear gnawing at their sanity. Strange noises echo through the woods, whispering voices that seem to slither between the trees. They can't tell what language it is, but the tone is unmistakable, predatory, hungry. Then, in the distance they hear it, a low growl, guttural and menacing. It's unlike anything they've ever heard before, sending chills down their spines. They know they're not alone in this twisted version of their world. Something is out there, stalking them, and it doesn't sound friendly. Footsteps, heavy and deliberate, approach from the darkness, and the friends grip each other tighter, their hearts pounding in their chests. Detective Michael Harris, a man of logic, a man of reason, found himself in a situation that defied all logic, all reason. He'd been investigating a series of strange disappearances, each victim vanishing without a trace. The only common thread, each disappearance occurred near a place rumoured to be a thin spot between realities. Scoff as he might, the evidence was starting to paint a very disturbing, very real picture. The missing persons case had led him to this city, a place shrouded in whispers and shadows. The air itself felt heavy, laden with an unseen weight. As he delved deeper into the investigation, he began to notice the subtle inconsistencies, the things that just weren't quite right. The faces in the crowd, for instance, that seemed to shift, to distort for just a moment before snapping back to normalcy. One rainy night, while pursuing a lead in a particularly rough part of town, he stumbled upon a hidden alleyway, its entrance obscured by a thick curtain of fog. As he entered, a chill ran down his spine and the hair on the back of his neck stood on end. He could sense it now, a palpable shift in the atmosphere, a thinning of the veil. Drawn by an unseen force, he moved towards a flickering light at the end of the alley. As he approached, he heard whispers, disembodied voices, speaking in languages he couldn't understand. A wave of dizziness washed over him, and for a moment he saw it, a glimpse of another world, a world both beautiful and terrifying. Then, just as quickly, it was gone, leaving him with a sense of dread that settled deep within his bones. The city he knew, the world he knew, was gone. In its place stood a twisted reflection, a city on the edge of a nightmare. The buildings were impossibly tall, their surfaces shimmering with an otherworldly glow. The streets were deserted, save for strange figures lurking in the shadows, their eyes glowing with an unnatural light. He was trapped, a prisoner in his own investigation. The realization hit him like a physical blow. He was no longer chasing a case, he was living a nightmare. And the worst part, he knew, with a chilling certainty, that in this twisted reality he wasn't the hunter, he was the prey. As a knock echoed from the other side of the door, he knew it was too late. The game was up, and he was the next soul on the list. Soul. And there you have it, folks. 5 tales of parallel universes that might just make you think twice about venturing into the unknown. Remember, reality is a fragile thing, and sometimes the line between our world and the others is thinner than we think. If you're brave enough and want to hear part 2 with 5 more terrifying parallel universe encounters, make sure to hit that like button, leave a comment down below, and subscribe to the channel for more nightmare fuel. Thanks for watching, and have a spooky Halloween night.